Hi, this is Tim Evans with the Keller Chamber. Today we have a very special guest, Jeff Tobaben with the Evolve Group. Today he's going to talk to us about employee engagement and why that is so important for small businesses. And he's going to share a little bit about how some large companies use it, but also how it relates to small businesses in America. So Jeff, welcome to the show and the interview. Glad to have you.
Appreciate you having us.
So Jeff, before we get started though, just take a few minutes and tell us about yourself and your company and how you came to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Evolve Performance Group, we are a data-driven consulting firm, which means that we don't ask our clients to attend any training or to do anything that we can't back up with scientific data and how it impacts their business. So that's kind of our main focus. Our experience ranges from working with companies as large as Walmart to teams as small as 15 or 20. So kind of a varied experience out there in terms of what type of companies we've worked with. Our goal with coming to talk to the Greater Keller Chamber of Commerce is really thinking about taking some of these tools that the big corporations have had a chance to use and scaling them down so smaller businesses can get some advantage out of them as well.
Excellent, excellent. Well, that's a very great segue because I have a very interesting slide I want to kind of show with the audience. I'm going to see if I can share it right now. See if we can bring it up here. Oh. See if we can make the technology work. One more time. All right, here we go. All right, there we go. So this is from Business Insider, and it just talks a lot about what makes up America today. And you know, the SBA defines small businesses as having less than 500 employees, and that's, interestingly enough, that's over 50% of the working population, right? So a huge population, and we're also small businesses, especially the Keller Chamber. We're also the ones that are generating most of the new jobs. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say because when I look at this, you know, we really need some of the tools. And, you know, from my own personal story, you know, I spent almost 20 years in corporate America myself. And I can tell you, we use some of these employee engagement tools, and maybe I didn't necessarily understand how it all worked. But then now that I've been out on my own for almost 10 years as a owner, I had some interesting experiences with an employee, and I learned the hard way about employee engagement. And then the next time I did it, I paid a lot of attention to it, and I had a wonderful experience, and I had a great employee. And sometimes employees have to leave, but I had done such a great job with employee engagement that that employee was very loyal and worked with me and actually found a replacement and spent a significant amount of time. They were so very committed to the company and helping me find a replacement, and then they brought the replacement in and trained, and it was like, you know, we never missed a beat. The customers were happy. It just blew my mind. So the problem is I don't have a process in place to repeat that, you know, so I'm curious to hear. So tell me, you know, how do you guys do that, and what does that look like?
Sure. And let's back up and give you a little bit of context. You know, in our work with large corporations, for instance, our largest clients out of Sweden and have 16,000 people in 37 different countries. Employee engagement for them represents a few issues around safety, around on-time delivery of products, and it's getting people aligned towards the mission of the company. And what's interesting, a lot of small businesses look at this and say, that I just don't have those issues. And I actually think that small businesses have those issues, and they're more accelerated or exaggerated than the large companies have. Because in our small businesses, and we're no different from many of the folks that might view this video, we have 10 employees. And if I have one employee that's not on mission and not taking care of our clients on a daily basis, it has a much far greater impact to our organization's bottom line than it, say, would for a GE or some of our large clients like a Walmart, that type of thing, because they can mask it with money and additional people. Whereas if it's just a small group, that one bad interaction that an employee has because they're disengaged with a customer could cost you tens of thousands of dollars, if not more. So thinking about this at that small business level, I think the impact is far greater. Some things to think about relative to employee engagement. I'll give you one statistic that came out a couple of years ago from the Gallup organization. Employee engagement is not about this kind of fuzzy feeling. You don't have to walk out and hug your employees for them to be engaged. It's actually more about performance, and it's about helping them find a pathway for growth, a pathway for them to get better at their jobs and to feel like they're actually contributing. One of our mentors, Graham Weston from Rackspace over in San Antonio, has a great saying. And he says, when it comes to employees, we all want to be valued members of a winning team on an inspiring mission. And that's really true irrespective of the size of the company. So back to the statistic I mentioned a moment ago, the Gallup organization came out with some information on manager talent about 2 years ago. And what they found is that about 1 in 10 of us are actually naturally talented to manage other people. That is, we wake up in the morning, we know how to do it, and we look forward to doing it. Another 2 in 10 of us can be developed to be great managers. What that says for the remaining 70% of the population is the outlook's not so good. It's not going to be in a good place, the present company included. We all have our little bits of crazy, both us as managers and our team members. So it's really trying to figure out how do you manage those perceptions to get everybody headed in the right direction. And you ask, how do we go about this? And the big way we do this is we gather employee engagement data for organizations. And we can do this for companies with as few as 4 employees and 1 manager. So that way we have a confidential scorecard for that manager and his or her team to look at. We have 22 items that we ask to measure employee engagement. And we say the first 16 items are really the 16 steps to great management. So if I fall in that 70% of people that just have a hard time managing people, we have a playbook for you. All you have to do is follow these 16 things, get better at them with your team, and they get more aligned and more productive.
Oh, that's so I just follow the process. It's well defined. And boom, there I am.
Yes, and we tried to make it really easy. There's a number of tools that we have that really kind of think about taking this idea of engagement and making it a business strategy or the way that we do things on a daily basis. And forgive the phrase, we try to make it management for dummies because, again, present company included, we need a lot of help. So we want to put prescriptive tools in the hands of managers that can just literally go read a flashcard or have a coaching guide with their employees and talk about how they get better and how they achieve the goals of the organization.
Right. That sounds pretty simple. So I guess then how would they learn more about this? I know the chamber is putting on some training. Is it in March? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, it's March 1st and 2nd. And the way that the process is called the Business Accelerator. And the way this works is if a company elects to join and come into the program, we would conduct an employee engagement survey for that particular organization. And then they would come to an event March 1st and 2nd. It's a 2-day course. Day 1, we take them through their engagement results, why it matters, how it matters to the organization in terms of driving performance, how it matters in terms of retaining 1 more employee or retaining 1 more customer. And then the second day is more about that particular leader that attends. It's about their individual leadership style, how they go about building a team based upon their sets of unique talents. So day 1, it's about the leader and their team. Day 2, it's all about the leader and how they drive performance in the team. And then post-course, we we feel like it's really important to follow up. Each attendee post-course will get a quarterly coaching call with one of our executive coaches to follow up on some of the commitments made outside of the course to make sure that this is blending into their daily operation.
Okay. And so I'm curious then, result from this approach, small business.
So when we think about results, one of the things we do for our larger clients, because they have really good business metrics, most of them, is we want to track how engagement grows and then how that impacts performance. So I'll give you an example from one automotive organization we worked with. The average dealership in this program, there was 171 stores in the program, but the average business, it's a small business with 41 employees on average. We saw they were able to increase their retail sales market share by 69% year over year by building engagement. And for the stores in this particular study that did not grow engagement, if they remained the same or they lost, they both lost market share. Now, the same is true for those dealerships on the service side. They increased their market share in service by as much as 85%. And while they lost or remained static if they did not grow employee engagement. And, you know, Tim, I think one of the things that's really important here to think about is if you think about places that you like to shop or places that you frequent, it's not so much the product or the service that brings you back, but it's the way you're treated. It's that relationship that you have with somebody in that organization. And if you think back to the TV show Cheers, where everybody wants to go where somebody knows their name, that's really what people are looking for. They're looking for a connection. And that's what having an engaged employee does. It aligns to the clients and it aligns to the client spend. So it's about how do I help these businesses build relationships with their clients that turn their clients into engaged clients. And at which point we know that an engaged client will spend 23% more versus somebody that's just kind of at a level of the basic level of engagement.
So that's the ROI. They're going to spend 20% more, an engaged client, because your employees are more engaged. Am I right?
Yeah. And I think there's another part of the ROI that I would think about as a business owner, kind of a soft cost. When you think about how much it costs to bring an employee into an organization, we have one company we work with that has quantified it, that it cost them $20,000 to bring a new person on board. And this is for a job literally shoveling dirt on a pipeline. It cost them $20,000 to put a shovel in that person's hands and put them on the front line to be able to do the job. And I think for many of our small businesses, we don't really consider what that cost of losing the employee might be, or what the cost of ramping someone up in terms of productivity looks like. So at the very least, depending on whose numbers you look at, and there's lots of different numbers out there, it usually costs between 1.5 times a person's salary if you lose them, up to 4 times, depending on the intensity of their role.
Wow.
So if I retain that one person, you're talking about a magnificent ROI. If I retain one client, it means the world to me.
Right. So it doesn't take much.
Right.
So really what you're saying is the cost of doing nothing is pretty expensive.
It can be, yes. I mean, some of the small businesses are really blessed with having really strong, loyal teams, but it's just one outlier that can really change the face of that organization. And I'll give you one example. We had worked with an organization in the office products industry. And it was interesting when we looked at how engaged clients were to the company. The clients were very engaged, but the employees were not. And what happened is one key technician left that company and took a whole bunch of clients with him. And then eventually the other key techs left and went to another company and took their clients. So relationships matter at the workplace because they are the thing that drive the relationships with the clients.
That is really interesting what you just said. So how do you know that? I mean, how do you know what you don't know? So if that's how your business and you're really busy. I mean, you're the average small business owner and just things are crazy and, you're trying to grow. And how do you know that? How do you find that out?
Great question. So I think that's where the Business Accelerator comes into play. We liken doing an employee engagement survey much like going to get a physical at the doctor every year. If you don't go get a physical, you're never going to know that you're sick or not. And then you could find out that you have a serious disease and be gone from us in 3 to 4 weeks. And I think that's the important thing. You actually have to look under the hood and see what's going on with the team. And it's interesting too, because again, this idea of engagement is not about the warm and fuzzy. We have psychological needs in the workplace that have to be met. And some of them are pretty basic, and they're as basic as knowing what's expected of me in my role. In fact, that's the first item on the survey. For many people, they may love coming to work, and I love working with you, Tim, and we have a great relationship. We play golf on the weekends. I love it here, but it stresses me out because I don't know from one day to the next what's expected of me. And while in a small business, it may be a lot of different things and things outside of my job description, I need you to talk to me regularly and let me know what that is, so that we're always aligned and I know what's expected of me and how I get that done. And I'll toss one other statistic in here that's kind of interesting. For employees that have bad managers and bad relationships with their teams, that is as damaging to their health and overall well-being as anything else that exists out there for them, any other external factors. In fact, there was a study done in Sweden that the Gallup organization was involved in, and they took saliva samples of workers on a daily basis for a number of years. And they found that if someone had a bad manager for 4 years, they had a 39% increased risk of serious heart disease. If they were with that manager for in excess of 4 years, they had a 74% increased risk of serious heart disease. So the actual idea out of this is it's more important to your health and well-being to have a good manager than it is to have a good doctor. And we've actually seen that play out in insurance usages. Lower engaged employees use major medical. The ones that are more engaged use preventative health care.
Wow. So that's pretty interesting. So not only can you get better employee engagement, you might even be able to lower your medical cost, right? Absolutely.
There's a lot of spider legs off of this that really have impact on the overall financial health of the organization and the people that work there. And I think one of the important things about this too, Tim, is as we help these organizations become more healthy in their employee relationships, that translates to the client relationship, but it also allows these organizations to expand from an organic perspective. So today I have 10 employees. If I keep doing things right here and growing the organization, I can grow to 12. And that's what we care about, is I want to help the American small businesses add jobs. As you saw in the infographic that you showed, is that 65% of job creation since 1999 has come from small businesses. I want to grow that. I want to try to help these companies figure out, how do we gain more market share in what we're doing? How do we grow our revenue? And how do we add 1 or 2 or 3 more positions to the organization that we have?
Excellent. Excellent. So, well, very cool. So then I guess, how do you take the first step? What is the first step? I mean, is it pretty simple? Just kind of walk me through that, because, this is kind of, I think it can, be a little overwhelming trying to figure out how do you move forward on something like this. So keeping it really simple would be, something that I'd want to do. So I know, okay, all I got to do is just show up. Okay, follow these 1, 2, 3. Now I've got a plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And in working in conjunction with the Keller Chamber of Commerce, the Business Accelerator has a pretty clear program layout that allows businesses to get involved with this and get moving down the road. So step 1 would be to decide to join the program. Then you would be contacted by someone from our office. We would start by getting an employee list, understanding what your organization looks like, and then helping you launch the employee engagement survey. Then on March 1st and 2nd, you would come to the 2-day course. We would disseminate your survey results at that point, spend again the couple of days working with you through the results, working with your style as a manager, and then help you really kind of coalesce this into a package where I can take this back to my business and start to use engagement every day in the way that I manage and the way that I grow my business and the way that I build my client relationships. And then, as I mentioned earlier, over the next year, we'll have 4 more contacts via either video or telephone that kind of follows up on the activities, the post-course activities, to make sure this is really drilling into the organization.
Excellent. All right. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you taking the time to educate us on, how employee engagement relates and how we can actually grow our businesses through that. Any last words to leave us with?
We would love to answer any questions that anyone might have. Feel free to contact us via email or contact us through the Keller Chamber. We'd love to talk with you if you have questions about the program and kind of talk about how we can help you move ahead. This is something that's very exciting for us and a big focus for us for this year.
Jeff, what's the website that they can reach you at?
We are at www.evolvepg.com. So that's EVOLVE, letter P for performance, G for group.com. And there is a web page in there specific to the Business Accelerator where they can request more information.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Tim, thanks for the time. Have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.